one had to cancel, and so they kind of got in at the last minute and got to go. And David came to me and he said, I that was, he'd share with me stories and things he'd seen and where the Sermon on the Mount. I did a series on the Sermon on the Mount, and he was sharing with me, what that looked like, and I just couldn't envision it. And he came back to me a few months later and said, I would love to go back, but I would like to go back with people that I know, that I could share this common experience with, and how cool it would be for a church family to be able to go and experience that together. And when he said it, it was just, I mean, I think I immediately said, let's go, didn't I? I was like, oh my gosh, here's an opportunity. Let's do this. And because David and Lisa have been, they know, this company that we're using is the same company that they went with, Morning Star Tours. And so we just began talking about it, and David kind of took the ball and ran with it. And so excited. Um, he said, I don't want to be the main person, the main spokesperson, but I'm letting him run the show, and I am the one standing up here with a microphone right now. And but I will also have the opportunity to, on the trip, to be able to share devotions at different places that we stop. And we're already talking about what that would look like, and praying about what we could share as we visit certain places there in the Holy Land and go to God's Word and find out, what actually took place here. But the most important thing is that, our prayer has been that God would put together the perfect team to do this. And in doing so, Dan Epperson, we were talking about it, and Dan recently went to the Holy Land about a year ago. Yeah, last summer. And he had a friend. They just went with some friends, and they had a guide that helped them. And come to find out, this guide was one that we could actually use through this company that we're using. And so Dan is how can I put this? Let's see. Dan is a military guy. All right. So we are going to let him be in charge of logistics and making sure everybody gets to where they're supposed to be when they're supposed to be there. And if not, he'll just shoot you. And so anyway, Dan he's got a lot of experience in leadership, and he's put together an amazing PowerPoint for us tonight, and he's going to be sharing with you the logistics of the trip. And then David and Lisa are going to come and share a little bit about the itinerary and what they experienced when they went the last time. And I just want them to share their heart. While they're doing that, I have a sign up sheet. What we need is to put together just basically an email distribution list that we can communicate to everybody with. Tonight we're going to present you. It's going to be like drinking from a water hose tonight. And so all the information that's going to be in this presentation and the slideshow that we're going to be doing, we're going to make available on our website, on our church website. And Hunter will be taking this information after tonight. He'll set up a link on our church website. All this information will be available. The links to go and register, the links to go make payments, all that stuff will be out there for you. So don't panic tonight. You can't keep up with all the information, but we'll be telling you more about that. But mainly, we want this to be a deep spiritual experience for those that God puts together in this team. We've been praying already that God would put the perfect team together. And so a part of this in preparation, we're a year and 3 or 4 months away from doing this. But part of what we want to do is, when we know who our team is, we want to just start doing maybe some Bible studies together, studies on some of the places that we'll be going and visiting, and taking an in-depth look at some of that before we go. But most importantly, just coming together as a group of believers and seeking God in prayer. and his will for not only our lives, but for this team that he puts together for this trip, because I just believe it's going to be something absolutely amazing and special. And so I'm excited that you're here. I'm excited we have people on Zoom. Nuke, we got them all out of the chat room. They're good to go. For those of you who are in the chat room and are watching online, you can't sign up on this sheet of paper. And so there's a chat room down at the bottom of your screen. There's an option there for you to click on, bring up the chat room. And if you would, put your name, your phone number, and your email address in there, and we'll add you to the list that we're putting together. Sound good? Let me pray for us before we God, I thank you so much for your goodness and your grace and your blessings. And God, you just continue to pour out your blessings upon us, our church, and upon me and family. And God, only you know how excited I am to be able to go and see and experience the places where you were, the places where you taught, places where you performed miracles. God, I'm so anxious and so excited about being able to walk where you walk. Because God, most importantly, I want to be more like you and how you walk. So, God, I pray for this team. I know there's some here tonight that may be on the fence. They're just here to find out more about the trip and haven't made a decision yet. God, just put the perfect team together. And if finances are a reason why they think they can't go, God, provide a way. We trust that you will give us the desires of our heart if they line up with your will. And so if there's anybody that feels like they can't go because of money, God, make a way. Help us to know how to come together as the body and help them. I just pray tonight that you would be honored in all that we do. We want to honor you and glorify you. God, do a special work in our hearts and in our lives. We'll be careful to give you the praise and the glory that you deserve. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Well, I'm going to turn it over to Admiral General Dan Epperson. He's turning red on me up here. I've embarrassed him, which makes me even happier than I was before we started. So, Dan, if you want to come forward.
This guy right here. So, all right. All right. So my name's Dan Epperson. I think I know about half of you. If not, I usually sit on the right side on Sundays. And so if you sit on the left side, I'm sorry I don't know you, or go to the morning service. So I apologize. I was talking with Lisa and David about it. The first time I met David was a couple of months back, and I was like, "Oh, I'm Dan. Where do you sit at?" And he goes, "Well, I sit 3 rows behind you." Now, and so it kind of made me feel bad a little bit. So, but anyhow, I've got a set of twins that runs around X Wild. So I'm the father to them and happy for it. So I'll start it off, talk a little bit about the Israel kickoff meeting. So, so the dates that we're doing this are going to be February 11th through the 22nd. So those are, write those down. Those will be put out there. And if you're here for another meeting, then you're probably in the wrong place, because we're going to talk about trips to go to Israel here. So the purpose of this, is to, like most of us, is retrace the steps that Jesus took. That's one of the biggest things that I enjoyed, and it actually made it real for me, was all the stories that I've read about, studied about. They were there. That's where this happened. Whenever you see Naaman talk about the Jordan River and being dirty and how he didn't want to go, 7 times in it, then you get there and you're like, okay, yeah, this is a dirty river. I get it. So that's kind of what we're going to, study about, and just kind of make it real and tangible. So that's what it's about. So, so this is Morning Star Tours. So this is the agency that David and Lisa used back when they went in 2020. So they started doing this in 1995 is when they started doing this. So the link that's up there, that's going to be everything you're going to want to need to know. So that's going to take you to your overview, your tour leaders, itinerary, cost, registration, frequently asked questions. That's going to be your main two link. It's going to take you, it's going to give you detail on each one of those pieces as you drill down into it. And when me and David and Steve, we're going to talk about some of the highlights. But that's where you're going to get the bulk of your information. So just keep that in mind. So that's where you're going to go. And they created a special link for us just for the church. So there's that. So there's an asterisk next to cost. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But the main piece where you're going to go to register at this link, there's a register tab. That's where you're going to go. So I've got it highlighted in bold. And so that's where you're going to go and take care of your registration for the trip. Now my clicker's not working. All of a sudden, there it goes. And here's a video about it. So
It was absolutely beautiful.
Just be on the boat where Jesus walked on water and calmed the storm and spoke to the wind and the waves. I mean, it's just, there's so much history there.
We were privileged to look at a first century synagogue, most certainly one of the synagogues that Jesus himself would have walked into. Tel Dan. We saw the nature preserve and we did that beautiful hike.
Reading about it and physically being able to step foot and see where all of this would have taken place was pretty wild.
We stood on the Mount of Beatitudes. We went up to the Golan Heights. We visited the spring of Harod, Gideon's spring.
To see this whole town that was essentially buried and has been uncovered was really cool to walk the streets and see the columns.
We visited Masada.
Once you got to the top and, the view, and it was just impactful, the ruins that, were left behind.
To see the fortress and the palace was just a really neat experience.
The Garden of Gethsemane or the Olive Grove. That's where history was changed. Read that passage so many times in my life, but to be there, it just left us very strong impact.
Going to the Elah Valley where David defeated Goliath, just standing there, experiencing it. It's almost like you can feel the presence of the power of God.
These are the actual stones. This was the entryway up to the temple that Jesus would have gone up and down these if these stones could talk.
If you want to see where it all began and see the message firsthand, the death, burial, and resurrection, Israel's where you got to come.
This is where Jesus was. This is where his ministry was. These are areas that talks about in the Bible, and this is it.
I highly recommend this trip, both from a historical standpoint, but also from a spiritual growth and development standpoint.
But the most impactful thing for me, everywhere we visited, but more importantly, I thought that I wanted to be that woman who touched Jesus's cloak and got healed. But being here made me realize that I want to be that person that helps Jesus carry the cross up and lift it up. It's life-changing, and you want to do this trip.
So that was an awesome video that kind of gives you the idea of kind of what you're going to be looking at. So these are your tour leaders here, and Mr. Simmons, he's been coming here about 9 years or so. Is that right? I'm going to cut you short, David. So him and Lisa, that the Reverend and Mrs. Lynette Thrasher here, them. And then Mark Coles is the guy with the little headscarf on, or the little neck scarf. He was my tour guide whenever I went last summer. So me and a friend from work, we did 5 days in Israel, and 7 total, but you lose a day each way from travel. But so he is originally from Cleveland, Ohio, of all places, and he moved back home, repatriated is what I was going to say, but he moved back home and was an attorney that worked in the U.S. back and forth. And when he retired, he enjoyed giving these tour guides and tour groups. And so that's how I got hooked up with him, and he is phenomenal. Knowledge wise, he probably knows more about the Bible and the things we're going to see than a lot of us that are going to go there. I mean, of course, he does that now because he enjoys it and he enjoys people, but it's very interesting. So he is not a Christian. He is a Jew. So yes, don't be mistaken on that. So, but he'll talk Christian stuff with you. He's all about it. So, here, something I want to point out here that I know it says tour leaders, but this is not Steve's trip or this is not Lynette's trip. It's not my trip. You know, this is your trip. This is the church's trip. So you get what get it, what you get out of it's what you put into it. So pray about it, study about all the locations that we're going to see, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. And Dave he'll get up here and he'll talk about the itinerary and stuff that you're going to see along the way. So just keep that in mind. So with that, I'll turn it over to Dave to talk about the itinerary. Maybe if the clicker works. Is it not working now? There it goes. Okay. All right. I'll turn it over to David too. So.
Thanks, Dan. I'm David Simmons. This is my wife, Lisa. Your members here. Steve asked me to share my heart a little bit about the trip and all. And so I'm going to take a stab at that first. It was our upcoming 25th wedding anniversary was it was about 6 months at the time, and I knew I better start thinking about doing something special or I was going to be in trouble. So Lisa and I started talking about maybe going to Italy. That's someplace we'd always wanted to go. So we so I contacted a friend that went to Italy all the time and just said, look, this is something we want to do, and can you help us plan the trip and all? So it's funny, the night before I called this guy, she and I were talking and said, our dream trip would be to go to Israel. And we hadn't even really thought about that would be possible. It's kind of like Steve. So when I was talking to my friend, I said, we want to go to Italy, but our bucket list thing, our wish would be to go to Israel. And he just said, there's a trip that's planned with Fellowship Bible Church, and that was our old church in Little Rock when we lived there. And they've been planning this trip for over a year. So, you ought to call them and see if there's any places open. So I immediately called one of the old pastors, and he said, there was just last week, a couple dropped out. We had a full tour, and there's 2 spaces open. So we jumped right in. This was in October of 2019. And we immediately, it took us about an hour, and we were already signed up and ready to go. And it was, we'd never make decisions that fast, but we just knew this is what we wanted to do. So we had to hurry up and get our passports. And that's a big thing to do right now. If you don't have a passport and you want to go, just go ahead and start making those preparations. But we had to get our passports, and we missed out, I think, because we weren't able to meet with the group and start doing the Bible studies and having that time to kind of bond with everybody. And so we just kind of jumped in at the last minute. But the day we left was the date of our anniversary, which we thought was pretty cool. So we spent that trip over there. And so we were so excited the whole trip. It's just, it was, we wanted to travel to Israel, and we had no idea that it was going to be such a meaningful experience. And just to be places where Jesus walked, and other Bible figures too. It just, we cried all the time. It was just so emotional. So many times we getting baptized in the Jordan and just places overlooking the Galilee, the Sea of Galilee. It just was, it was just wonderful. And so we came back after the trip, and we tell our friends and all, and they just saw how exciting it was and life-changing it was for us. And a lot of people said, if y'all go back, we want to go next time. We want to go with you. And then COVID hit. And so there wasn't any travel over in Israel for several years now. But one thing that we had talked about too, we wanted to take our kids back. And so that's one thing we're going to do, is our kids are going to go with us. And that's exciting for us that they get to experience that. And so I contacted Morningstar, and I'll talk about them in just a little bit. And they said a minimum number of people to make a trip for a bus is 32. So I knew that we weren't going to be able to get 32 people on. So I approached Steve and I said, let's just open this up. And I asked him about, it's funny. I said, you know, you want to try to go to Israel? And I told him what, you know, the approximate cost is. And he goes, yes. And he said, I'm all in. He didn't even hesitate and said, I think we can get enough people in the church to fill up that, at least that minimum of 32 people. And it's for a bus, it's either 30, the maximum is, a minimum is 32 and the maximum is 56, I think. So we've got, you know, time and we can get together a pretty good sized group. So the trip itself and with Morningstar, that little video was good. It was, kind of gave you an idea a little bit about them, but one thing we were always so impressed with this tour group was they were just in total control. We never felt in danger. They had advanced team people that were always ahead of us. When we go to a hotel room, our hotel, when we first get there, they had somebody there waiting on us, ready to check our bags, and the bags would, you know, we'd claim them and you know, go to the bus and put tickets on them, and then it'd have the room number on it already. So then we just go to our room and they'd already have the bags would come to the room there, and they were always checking to make sure places were safe. And the bus that we drove on, we had one bus and one driver the whole time, which I liked that. So it was that you had that familiarity. The bus was nice. And we just always, they met us at the airport. We just always felt like that we were in good hands. Never doubted that at all. And so that was one thing that we wanted to do, was try to stick with this tour group, because they had a lot of experience, and we knew that the people at Fellowship had been using them for a long time, just years and years. And so this trip is really almost exactly like the same trip we went on. Same hotels, basically the same sites. They'll be tweaked a little bit because there's been some new discovery since we were in Israel. So there'll be a few changes, but this is basically our trip, and that's okay. We're glad to go back because it was, I mean, there's so much that we didn't get to see and didn't get to take in, but you know, we went over there really just wanting to take an anniversary trip, and just came back changed because we just went to the place where Jesus was. And I just feel like that, I kind of want that to be our theme for this trip, is just finding Jesus in Israel and developing so much of a closer relationship when you see all this stuff is real in the Bible. And it's just a wonderful thing. And I hope all of y'all can go, because I'm so excited. It's just a wonderful trip. So let me just kind of go through this itinerary. And this is, if you go to the website, it's a lot more detailed. It'll give you each day but the trip, we'll leave Little Rock, and what we did, we flew to Atlanta and then flew to New York, boarded a flight. It was 10 or 11 o'clock after we went through security and all, and they immediately fed us dinner. And they tell you need to sleep, because the flight's about anywhere probably from 9 to 11 hour flight, depending on the jet stream. And so I had never taken Ambien. I took it that time, and it helped me sleep a little bit. So I think that trip I slept about 6 hours. But you eat, and you try to sleep, then when you wake up, it's the next day in Israel. So you eat breakfast on the plane, and then you arrive at Tel Aviv, and then we'll take a bus to a little town north of Tel Aviv that's on the Mediterranean. It's called Netanya. And there's a neat hotel there that we'll go to and eat dinner that night. It'll take a couple hours, and then we'll eat and kind of regroup and talk about the trip. And then the next day we'll start the tour. And we'll start out in the north, around the Sea of Galilee. And there are just so many places, and that's where Jesus started his ministry. And I mean, you just go to Capernaum, you go to Magdala, where Mary Magdalene's from, and there's synagogues there, and you just know he was there. And you can just, I remember Lisa and I, the first time we were up on this mountain called Mount Arbel, and it was the first glimpse we had of the Sea of Galilee. And I always thought that it was this huge place, but you could just see these little towns all around it. And I think it's like 14 miles long and, 6 miles wide or something like that. It's not that big. And we were just in tears, just to see that and just know that that's where Jesus, where his ministry started and where he spoke to people. So that was really cool. So we'll spend 4 days, first 4 days around the Sea of Galilee, going to all these different places. We stay at a hotel called the Ramat Resort. And it's a really neat hotel. Well, I don't know all of them, but the rooms we had and we saw all had views of the Sea of Galilee. So you could sit on your balcony at night and look out, or in the evening and look out to the Sea of Galilee. That was pretty cool. So we'll go to all these different places around the Sea of Galilee, and then we'll head down towards Jerusalem, and we'll go through Jericho and look at Qumran, where the Dead Sea Scrolls were. We'll go to the Dead Sea, and there's a neat resort hotel there that we'll stay one night, and then you can go swim in the Dead Sea if you want to and float. And they've got a spa there where you can go get facials and, do all that. You can get a bath and not have to get in the Dead Sea itself. And so we'll go there. They'll give you a few hours there, and we'll be in that area just for one night there. And the food's real good. It's a neat hotel. And then we head to that Jerusalem area after that. And that's really where it's just, well, the Sea of Galilee, I love that as much, but the around Jerusalem is just, it's just everywhere you look. It's just so cool and so meaningful. And we go to Bethlehem. We go to the Temple Mount. We go to the Wailing Wall and where you can go and pray there. Let's see. The Via Dolorosa is where you take the steps of where Jesus took, where he was going to on the cross, going to he was carrying his cross and going to Golgotha. And so you follow those steps. You go to the Church of the Holy Sepulchre, which is where the traditional site where Jesus was crucified and buried there. And it's just, and all these churches are just old. They were built back in the time of the Roman Emperor Constantine. Most of them were really old, and there's several different, the Roman Catholics have they help run a lot of these churches. And then there's the Greek Orthodox Church is real involved. And there's a couple others I can't think of right now. I'm kind of nervous doing all this, but anyway, what else, Lisa? Is there, I just hope y'all go. This is the coolest thing. And it's just wonderful. And you'll never think the same about your faith and your love of Jesus. Okay, thank you.
All right. So just kind of give you a heads up what the temperatures are roughly in February. So there's 4 different locations. Because it's kind of different climate zones. So the map on the right is kind of average rainfall throughout the year. So you've got Jerusalem, Tel Aviv, Galilee, and then Dead Sea. So we're going at a cooler time of the year. So your lows are not counting the Dead Sea. Because when I was there, it was 118 degrees. I went in June. That's why I was mummified in one of my pictures. But the lows are mid 40s to upper, 60, 64. And then the rainfall. So you probably want to bring a poncho, looking at just the average rainfall, 3.5, 4 inches, 3 inches. And the days represent the average rain days for that month in those areas. So just be prepared. There's Dead Seas is still dry, so we're not going to get too wet when we go down there. So just keep that in mind. So. So here's the meat. That's what everybody's probably interested in. Tour cost, cancellation policy, what have you. So the average, well, there, I told you we're going to talk about the asterisk there. So the 58.50 per person, that's considering if you're sharing a room with somebody. If you're going by yourself, bank on another $1,700 unless you want to room with someone. So then you don't have to pay that extra. The asterisk is for the flights. They'll come out with the actual flights in March and then they'll true up that number. So it could flux a little bit on that 58.50. It just kind of depends on cost of the airfare and what have you. So that's what that asterisk's for. So that's a tentative number right now. They're going to request $750 due at the time of registration using that link we talked about earlier. And then February 1st is the deadline. So David mentioned there's only 56 spots. So it's first come, first serve. So if you want to get in, you got to get in quick. So, because after 56, that's it. So we're done. So February 1st is the last day cutoff date for that. So just want to make sure that's the urgency there on that. So, and then you're talking about the second payments due in September, which is about 6 months after that to kind of give you a break after, if, $1,500 if a couple's going or what have you. And then the whole balance is due on November 28th, 2024. The cancellation policy, they're pretty lenient here. So you'll get half of your deposit back by September 29th, 2024. So that's good there. And then once you start getting a little closer, then 50% of your deposit. And then after November 29th, there's no refund. They're locking you in on that. So that's why we got it highlighted there. So you're aware of that. So. All right. So what are you going to get with your tour costs? So that flights are included, all entrance fees to all the places that we're going to see, gratuities, breakfast and dinner, lunch will be on you. So most of the time when we're out traveling, it's nice to get some of the local food anyways. So I really enjoyed that piece of it. I mean, you go to a new place, you got to try the food. The food's great. You'll get pre-trip prep materials, which I'll talk a little bit later. And then you'll get some tour headsets for some of the places that are allowed and then hotels. So it's all included with that tour cost. So. All right. Things to consider. David talked about a passport. So you will need a passport. So it's 10 to 13 weeks. And there's the link that I put underneath it that will make that available on the church website. Now that 10 to 13 weeks does not include a 2-week delivery from the post office, assuming the post office gets it to you. So just keep that in mind. So tack on another 2 weeks for that. The travel insurance. So this was fantastic little piece that Steve found for us. I don't know if Katie's in here tonight, but this used to reference Katie here. She's probably appreciative that we didn't put her name and number down on that. But the Faith Ventures, it's through the church. There's the phone number in the website. You will contact them directly. So, don't come to Steve. He's going to tell you to go to the website or the phone number. So the pricing on that, and I'll talk a little bit about it in just a minute, but it's super cheap per person. Because when I looked at who I use for my insurance carrier, it was like $400 a person, which is super pricey. David looked at his and it was somewhere, it wasn't as bad as that, but it was somewhere close to that. So your internet, so your phone plan, so this AT&T has an international day pass. And then if you're a Verizon user, it's called Travel Pass. So when you're overseas, you can have them, you can either go to their website or AT&T or Verizon, or go to the stores and they can turn that on when your phone detects that you're outside of the country. Not excluding Canada and Mexico. You don't need that for that, but it's $10 a day per phone line. And so if Lynette wanted to have hers turned on too, well, then it's only $5. They cut it in half, 50% for the next user. So it's $10 for the first line, $5 for the second line per day. If you use it, if you text or call. If you don't text or call, then you don't get charged for it. So just keep that in mind. Primary healthcare insurance. So we would just encourage that you are insured. It's not a requirement. Some folks may not carry healthcare insurance, but just check into it just in case. You never know. something may happen. It's just the way it goes. So just check into that, before you go on your trip. So on your primary coverage. And so we were talking about the travel insurance. The only thing I want you to take away from this is there's 3 different plans which are located up there, and you can go on the website, and then this will be available if you to really get into the meat of it. But it's pretty, I mean, $30 a person for the base plan. You got a plus plan and then the premium plan. I mean, $80 for a premium plan per person. Mine was over $400 whenever I was looking on my individual plan. That's travel insurance, trip insurance. I mean, you can't beat it. So that's fantastic. I appreciate Steve for looking into that. That's through the church. So that's great. All right. We got any Razorback fans in here? I see somebody wearing red. Where my Hog fans at? Yeah. All right. I like it. I like it. You guys are offensive. So leave your Razorback gear at home. So do not bring your Razorback gear. I kind of set you up for that. So leave your gear at home. Pigs are offensive and are unclean for the Jews and the Muslims. Now, you're a who fan? You're a Longhorn fan. Well, you need to step out, sir. This trip is not for you. That was Mac Hutchinson, in case somebody was wondering. Mac Hutchinson said that. He's a Longhorn fan. But anyhow, so leave your Razorback gear at home. Leave your patriotic American gear at home. So no MAGA hats, Josh. All right. I'm calling you out. That's right. All right. Well, I wish Hunter was in here. He's in the back. No riding with Biden. None of that stuff. So leave all that stuff at home. Okay. Leave your expensive and gaudy jewelry at home. I bought Quelo bands for me and my wife, just silicone rubber bands, just to not make yourself a target. And they're cheap. They're like $1. So you can do that. So no tight fitting. So if you're a woman, please bring a headscarf because some of the places will have you cover your head up. So just be thoughtful of that. No tight fitting workout clothing. That's basically no yoga pants. So dress modest, dress conservative on some of these places. You're going to want to bring some comfortable walking shoes because there is lots of walking. You will get 3 to 5 miles per day in. So just to go into some of the different sites that you're going, steps, all that, you're going to get a workout in. So that's good. Notify your credit card company of travel plans because that's a heads up. Now, if you have a travel credit card, that's, some airline or hotel or something there, usually it's not an issue for them to notify, but that's fine. And then last thing to think of is bring baptism clothing and water shoes in case you want to get baptized in the Jordan River, and water shoes for that also. And then also Hezekiah's Tunnel. There's a lot of water in it. It's going to be pretty cold, I would imagine, for this time of year for the water. But that way you don't get your shoes all wet and mucked up. So here, so I put a couple pics in for me and my wife from our trip, and I was going to talk a little bit about it. So you'll see me when I was talking about being a mummy there. Josh will appreciate that I wrapped up my face. But it was 118. That's at Masada. That's where in AD 70, that's where a bunch of the zealots, I guess I will say holed up, but that's where they had a standoff with the Romans. And so you go in and look at that historical site, and it was pretty warm that day. The picture there, I guess, would be to your left. That's overlooking the Sea of Galilee. That's up there from the Mount of Beatitudes, which is a beautiful location. And then the picture on the far right, top far right. So that's a friend of mine from work. He's from Morocco, and he is a Muslim. So me and him went on the trip together, and it's kind of interesting. He speaks Arabic. So a lot of the places we're going, if our guide that spoke Hebrew couldn't get any traction with some of the locals because they didn't speak Hebrew, then my buddy Yasser would he'd start speaking Arabic, and it was super awesome to go. And I asked him if he wanted to go, so we'll see. So the funny piece about that story is I was kneeling down, kind of feeling the water with my hands, and you're out in the desert, and that water was cool to the touch. And so I called him over. I say, Yasser, hey, come over here. I'm setting him up for a joke. I say, come over here and feel this water. He stuck his hand out into it, and he goes, yeah, that's cold. I said, put my hand out. I said, congratulations, you just been baptized. And he goes, what? So he starts trying to shake his hand off, like Jesus had got him, And so, and then I took a picture of that, you know, like I was gonna try to dump him in or what have you, so just to mess with him. The bottom right-hand picture, you know, I kind of live lightly, so that it's real funny. And I was talking with Steve about this. So the joke is you've got a Muslim, a Jew, which is in the middle, and a Christian, and then you can make whatever joke you want. Start with that after that walks into a whatever. And so, the interesting piece about the middle bottom picture there, so it is 50 hertz. So you're going to want to bring an adapter. You'll have to get on Amazon. I think they're like $7 or $8. You're going to need an adapter for it. And then so they don't do 120 over there. They are 230 is what their standard voltage is. And so my wife likes to bring small appliances to fix her hair. And so we had to get a voltage adapter that goes into the power adapter to make her hair dryer or straightener or whatever contraption she brought with her to make that work. So just be mindful. You're going to need some sort of adapter. What's that, Carolyn? Oh, you're welcome. So yeah, they're readily easy available. And I'm sure we can put it out there coming up. So let's see. All right. So we were talking about some of the pre-trip travels. So coming in 2024, we're going to start, me, Steve, David, there'll be a Bible. We're going to start like a tour Bible study about the places that we're going through in the itinerary. So we're going to try to hit all the things, the significance of it, and just kind of help you prepare about it. Cause it's cool to actually know about some of these places when you actually are there and going through it. And then the Morning Star Tours will actually send you this book. We're supposed to get this. And coincidentally, I had bought it anyways. I didn't go on the Morning Star tour. I went on a separate tour, and I had bought this book, and it came in super handy because I was reading up on some of the different places that I was going to see ahead of time. So I thought that was awesome. So,
and when you get it, there's a lot of helpful information in the front of it, just like packing list and, you know, things to do on the plane that are helpful. There's just a lot of good information in it. So I think they'll send that once you register and all, then you would get it. But it also gives like, you know, a schedule, like a month schedule to prepare for your Israel trip, just like with scripture and, you know, all that. So it's got a lot of good stuff in it. And we may, I don't know.
well, that's TBD. Yeah, that's just what they'll send us. Yeah.
May do something different. Sorry, we may do something different, but this would be good for y'all to do too, as well, just on your own. So yes, this will be sent to everyone once you sign up.
That is correct. So this made me think of, I was making fun of the Razorback fans. I try to put in on that slide that Razorback fans are offensive, and my wife made me take it out. But she's a fuddy-duddy. She's not here. All right. So the only thing I want to talk about here so Morningstar sent us a lot of resources. I've got links and things that you can study. The only thing I want to take away from this page is the hotels. There's links to the 3 hotels that we're going to be staying in. And so you can go online and check them out and get your comfort level, what all they're about, which is pretty awesome. I went and looked at the Inbal. David, I was talking about the New Jerusalem hotel that I stayed at, which is at the Jaffa Gate. So the Inbal is right outside the Jaffa Gate. So I've already got my bearings down to get us in trouble and there's an Alabama Crimson Tide store in Old Jerusalem of all places. I was distraught. I spit at it when I walked by. I couldn't believe it. I sent a picture to Steve and I was like, what is this nonsense? But that was, yeah. Oh, they had their little trinkets. There's a picture of Jesus kneeling down on whatever he was praying at and was saying Roll Tide on it. So, I mean, I was like, this is sacrilege, but anyways, so. Well, you'll see. So they've got a lot of stuff that they sell. You'll see there'll be people offering like Arkansas Razorback shirts, because people like to make money, and it's in Hebrew. It says it in Hebrew, which is kind of cool. So that you'll see stuff like that along the way, if you wanted to purchase it. So yeah, just not the pig itself. So the next piece, right here. So so I know we got some Baymall folks here. Where's my Baymall guys at? Got some Baymall? Everybody love it? I love Baymall. So the only thing that I wanted to bring up on this is that, so Ray Vanderline that Marty Solomon talks about all the time. So here's, if you look at this, here's links that he talks about faith lessons while you're in Jerusalem. So Ray, he always references Ray Vanderline as his rabbi all the time. So here's links that you can go to online media resources that you can check into and kind of get that messianic Jew perspective of this trip. So I thought it was kind of cool. And this is all stuff that was provided to us by Morningstar for us to have for the trip in case you wanted to prepare. All right. Okay. So everybody raise their hand. I want to see everybody's hand raised. We're going to play a little exercise. Josh Odom. There it is. Who's ready for shawarma? All right. So that's going to be a food that you're going to get to eat over there. It's actually good. It's real good. I was surprised. There's some of that. No, this is like, it's like a, I want to say like depends on how they cook. It's like a fried chicken, but in various different types of meat. That's kind of what it is. No, maybe goat. You don't know, but they tell you it's chicken and beef and all those things. So it's real good. It's seasoned real nice. They get all the feathers and all the dog and all that stuff out of it. But anyway, so it's real good. It's a Mediterranean style diet. Some of those pictures I had, it's a lot of salads and you got to like hummus. There's lots of hummus there, but they do serve a lot of fries at just about every meal I had. So, so that's all I've got. I'm going to open it up to questions. So is there any questions that anybody wants to ask that myself or Steve or David can answer? Miss Thrasher, is anybody on Zoom that has a question? Mr. Odom. Depends on what you say. Yes, ma'am. Okay, so the question for the folks on Zoom is, do you recommend getting global entry? So I would say yes. So I've got global entry, and if you don't have it, it's $100 that it's good for every 4 years. And if you have a travel credit card, they'll credit you back that. You'll have to go to an international airport to get that. And the closest one is either Memphis or Springfield, Missouri. I don't know how they deem Springfield, Missouri as an international airport, but that's the two closest locations that you can start that. So you can just type in global entry when you go do a search, and you'll get TSA PreCheck with that. That's $75 already. TSA PreCheck is, so when, oh, okay. So you never know. So well, the $75 you get with the PreCheck, which is nice, and it only costs you an extra $25 to get the global entry for $100. So the global entry just makes it easier whenever you're entering back into the country that you've already done background checks. You got to do an interview. And then you just kind of scan your little card or your face when you're coming in the kiosk, and you're done. Off you go. So they've already vetted you, done interviews, all that kind of stuff, and it makes it super easy. Miss Johnson. Yeah, you go to the airport. So yeah, you'd have to go to there's a global entry location at every international airport, but you ahead of time, you'll have to get an interview time, and you can't just walk in there. Well, unless you're traveling and you've already got all your background check preconditionally done. I think so as the wording that they use, that you're preconditionally approved. Once you get, basically you submit all your paperwork like you would for, your passport, your birth certificate, all these things ahead of time. Then if you walk in, if you're traveling, you can walk in and say, hey, I need my interview, and boom, they'll do it and you knock it out. Or you set up a time for an interview to get it done in person. Now you're going to have to get on this, because it took me 6 months, because I had to drive to St. Louis, because St. Louis is also another location, because I couldn't get into Memphis and then I couldn't get into Springfield, but my wife went to Springfield and got hers done. So just keep that in mind. So any other questions? You get so the question is, do you have the TSA? It comes with the global entry. You get both. So that'll help you going in the national and the home airports. No. Well, it's $100, so it either comes with TSA or it doesn't. So you still gotta, but there's no discount, I guess, to your point though. Yeah, so they'll still ding you. But I didn't have TSA pre-check at the time, and so it was a win for me. So Cliff, is that your name? Dang. I'm sorry. I sit on the right side of the house over here. So yeah, okay. What you got? Currency. So the question was currency. So you can change at the airport. And David, with the Morningstar tours, how do they handle the currency exchange? I know you can change at the airport in Tel Aviv. Also, when you're at the little stores or whatever in Jerusalem, you can use your travel credit card, whatever credit card you got designated, because mine doesn't charge me any foreign transaction fees, and it'll apply it in the current, I think it's, what's the currency?
New
Shekels,
shekel.
the new shekels. It'll convert it for you, and you'll see it on your statement as $10 as opposed to 35 new shekels.
Most places take dollars though. It wasn't even an issue. Everybody took dollars. I hope that stays that way. And what we were told is that you probably got the best exchange rate if you just used your credit card, and they would automatically make the whatever the current exchange rate was through your credit card. So I mean, we never had any problems using. I used a Discover card. Just
Yeah,
like
I
I
had
use
a-
here.
yeah.
It never was any issue.
No, it was pretty easy. I never had any trouble either with the card. I brought a couple, so just in case. Well, no gratuities are included as part of your package, so you don't have to worry about tipping anything for as far as food and all that stuff.
Everything, the lunches are, when you go to a place, I mean, it's expensive, but it's not, I mean, it's about like if you bought in an airport or something.
Yeah.
Just, it's not, it's not that expensive. And, we would just go eat at big cafeterias or someplace where you could get a quick meal. A lot of times you want to buy a bottle of water, and they had some water on the bus that you could buy, or I think they gave you one bottle a day or something like that. On the bus, it had Wi-Fi, and most of the hotels have Wi-Fi too. So you might not even need to use your AT&T or Verizon international plan. And on the health insurance, one thing we made it a priority that because there was on this travel insurance, it would reimburse you if you had medical issues. But like we bought a Blue Cross travel plan just for that trip, and it was for both of us, it was like $142. But with that, we got a list of all the physicians and all the clinics and all the hospitals that would accept that Blue Cross plan. And so you never worried about whether you could get medical care because you knew then. So I would encourage y'all to look at it, and you may, whether I know there's a Blue Cross version. There's also a United Health care version of this, the same thing where you can get that international plan. So I would strongly recommend doing that just for peace of mind. We didn't need it, and you'll find that the hospitals and the medical, the medical facilities there are wonderful. Israel is it's the coolest place. It's just nothing like you would expect. It's just so modern. There's so much green there. The food is great, but then you've got this side that's all the Bible history and for a Christian too. It's just wonderful. But you'll change your thinking about Israel when you go over there. It's a neat place, and you feel very secure. There's lots of military people around everywhere, but you feel secure.
Yeah, especially in the old city, you'll see, I mean, just the Israeli police just walking around with M16s. They're there. They're just for protection. So you'll see them. So don't get worried about that. They're there for all of us. Nope, did my. No, you do not have to have, well, it's not letting me, did the battery die? There we go, there we go.
For the website.
Oh, for the website.
Yeah, it's
okay.
like the first or second,
Yeah, let me
second.
get to it. Come on now, right there.
Are there any questions for people on Zoom? Okay.
Yeah, there's your website that you're gonna do everything. And as far as the pricing goes, you're not gonna find a lot of deals, because they're about the same kind of price as they are in the US. And they do like to haggle. So if you like to haggle, there's your opportunity. So it's a win. Yes, Miss Caroline. So the question was, how far in advance do you need to set up travel pass or the international day pass? According to their website, it is 24 hours prior you can wait all the way right up until the day you leave. But you can go and do it tomorrow and it's just turned on. You're not using it. I just leave mine on because I travel some. You don't have to go back in there and turn it on, turn it off, all that, because you have to be in Europe. It has to detect your phone has to be detected in some place. And Canada and Mexico doesn't count because it's covered by AT&T. I'm not sure about Verizon because I'll go to Canada quite a bit and I'm not charged for my text or calls from there. So it's all part of North America. Miss Johnson has a question. Yes. You have a comment. Okay. Okay. So Miss Johnson says it takes more than 24 hours. Okay. So just give it about a week. Yeah. That was okay.
But once y'all sign up, I mean, we're gonna have more meetings. We'll talk about clothing and just, we still got our plugs where you can, just to show you what, the electrical outlets aren't a big deal.
No,
It's not at all. It's not an issue. One of the hardest things for me was you got to pack for 12 days and, I had to buy 12 pairs of underwear. You put it all in your suitcase and you got to wear clothes. I wore my pants, more than once and tops and everything. I tried to have a clean top.
Will they launder for you at the hotel?
They do have laundry, but we never used it because honestly, we were so tired every night. Cause you do a lot of walking and it's just so emotional. It's just intense. I mean, and it's in a good way. It's not a bad thing. It's a good way, but it's just, I mean, we'd eat and maybe sit around and talk a little bit, but we were ready to crash for the next day because you're up pretty early. And I mean, some days we were leaving the hotel at 7. So we had to get breakfast and get ready and go.
So was there a question, Steve? What is the minimum age limit? Oh,
I don't know. Yeah, we'll have to.
Okay, so Mr. Odom is saying that it is 13 years old per the website.
Okay.
Okay. There you go. There's the answer. So Mr. Odom is now crawfishing and says it's recommended, is what he's saying now. So recommended 13 due to the walking. So don't back up your husband, Amanda. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah, wear jeans. Yeah, jeans are fine. Jeans, even because we were there and it was pretty hot in June, like shorts was fine, especially for men. You just had to make sure your knees were covered going to the holy sites. If you're out like at the Dead Sea and in Getty and all these other places, yeah, it's pretty loose. Don't worry about that. It's just like going to the Temple Mount because that's controlled by the Islamic Waqf, which is the Islamic police. They're checking to make sure you're not wearing religious shirts. I stuck my Greenbrier Nazarene shirt in, but they're making sure you're not praying up there, bringing any kind of religious trinkets or any of that, doing any of that kind of stuff. They've got that on lockdown. So
That time of year, it was cooler in the morning, but on up in the day, it was fine. We usually would, I had on a pair of those kind of cargo pants I wore every day and walking shoes. And I usually, for my coat, I just had like an old rain jacket, and that was enough to keep me warm. And if it did rain, I was covered up, but, we were very blessed. I think it rained one day, the last day we were there, when we were, at the Wailing Wall praying, but, the rest of the time it never even rained on us. I'm not saying it won't, but we just had really good luck, then.
yeah, one of the interesting things about the Dome of the Rock that was kind of what that's representing right there is over like Mount Moriah, where Abraham offered up Isaac. You don't realize this stuff. You're reading about it, and then you're like there, and that's what that's covering. Holiest of holies and these kind of things that you're reading about. So, is there any other questions? Anything else, Miss Thrashers? Anybody? Yes, question. Yes, sir. Yeah. Yeah. What's your name? I believe I've met you. What is your name, sir? So Billy Duncan says that if you want to bring a can of Coke, smuggle it back, put it in your dirty underwear. So, yeah. Yeah. You probably could check it and be fine. Yeah. Okay. So I'm saying no on any other questions, comments? Ms. Thrasher, anybody on Zoom? Nope. Going once, twice, thrice. Okay, I'm gonna turn it back over to Steve. Close us out. All right, there you go, brother.
Thank you, Dan and David and Lisa and my wife Lynette running the Zoom chat back there for us. And I mentioned that we're going to have an opportunity to lead some of the devotions and times together. And I'm going to be leaning on her pretty heavy to help with that. And she may do more of it than me. I often say she's forgot more about the Bible than I'll ever know. And so, but we're looking forward to going on this trip with y'all. I would recommend one thing. Some of you have already done this, and some of you may not have done this yet. If you have not started watching The Chosen and following that, I would highly recommend you do that before you go on this trip, because it has brought a whole new awareness to me. Well, not like I'm anybody special, but I mean, it's made me think about Jesus and the things that took place in a whole different light. And some of the things that I see were things that I never imagined them being like that. And I think that would just be a good experience for all of us too. And I may go through and watch them all again right before we go, but there's an app called The Chosen that you actually can free and download. You can watch it on your phone, or you can mirror it to your TV or whatever. But do what? Amazon Prime has them all now. So, but I would highly recommend watching it. I think there's 3 seasons in. Yeah, 3rd season right now. And so, yeah. All right. Well, thank y'all so much for coming. We went 6 minutes over, and that is not bad. But I'm just so excited. I've said that 1,000 times, and I'm so excited. I'm so excited. And I want y'all to go with us. Each and every one of you. Y'all don't know who I'm looking at, do you? Yeah. All right. Well, I want to close with a word of prayer. And David, would you come and close us out with prayer? And I'm looking forward to having many prayer meetings and Bible studies together in the next year.
Father God, we're so grateful for who you are and that you're our Father and our Creator. And Jesus, we are just so thankful that you're our Savior. And we're just excited about this trip, Lord, and we just ask your blessing and Lord, you just ask you to send the people that you want to send and just guide them, help them to open their minds and their hearts to want to learn about you, Jesus, and about your life and just your walk and your teachings. And Lord, I just ask you to help us and remind us to start praying for this trip and pray and help us to pray for those who are going to come and just make a clear path for those that there'll be obstacles, Lord, because we know Satan's doesn't want a lot of people to go on this trip and doesn't want this trip. And because we just know there's going to be great things on this trip, Lord. And Lisa and I have felt it, and we're just so excited to see what you're going to bring and who you're going to bring on this trip and what all you're going to reveal to us. And we're just so thankful for you and all your blessings, Lord. And just be with everyone here tonight and on the Zoom, and just bless their families and just keep them safe as they go home tonight, Lord. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Thank y'all.